Alright, Schlockmeister fans, continuing with the video nasties. This is a section 3 video nasty called Island of Death. Let's check it out. Our movie starts with this guy. We're going to learn that his name is Chris Lambert. He's stuck in a pile of... Now we flash back to see how we got there. There's Chris and Celia again, and this is a gay man who's... I think he's going to give him a place to stay. He's calling his mom on the phone and telling her that he's with Celia in the phone booth. We're going to quickly learn that Chris and Celia are crazy. This is Chris with a baby goat, and I'm not going to tell you what he's going to do with this thing eventually. But I will tell you that when he's done with it, he's going to kill it. Meanwhile, Celia has found a human friend who she volunteered to help him paint. When Chris shows up, he takes pictures of them. There's a lot of picture taking in this film. It was all a ruse, because next thing you know, they're attacking him, or Chris is, and Celia's just a bystander watching. While Celia takes pictures with the Nikon, Chris crucifies him. Listen. And if that wasn't enough, they pour paint down his throat.
Dirty worms.
That gay guy we saw at the beginning, they decide to kill them too. The other guy fled, and Celia keeps an eye on that one. Well, this guy tries to get away from him, but he does not get far. Flat, Celia puts a gun in the other dude's mouth. Celia keeps having this recurring dream of some crazy guy who attacks her and Chris. The cop starts nosing around. They use an interesting weapon of choice to attack the cop, an airplane and a rope. They take off, and the dude is strong enough to hold on, at least for a while. But he can't last forever. Meets a woman in the bathtub.
Cold milk you promised me.
First things first, right?
Later on he says, I've never been with a middle-aged whore before, and he pees on her, then beats the crap out of her. Drags her outside, and then with the help of a bulldozer, chops her head off. Unique. He leaves her to take a bath while he goes fishing, and these two hippie guys come in. They're going to try to assault her and eat plants. They burst in. Before they can do much more than grope her, Chris comes home, spear guns the one. We don't really see it played out, but he drowns him in the toilet. Then there's this lesbian chick named
As I watched them
Leslie.
sitting there, I was almost sure that the proper way for Dirty Leslie to die was to burn.
She has a thing for Celia.
Well,
They really don't do much either. There's a little groping that goes on, but
one fix.
she also is a heroin user. Then she Christopher breaks in, beats her up a little bit, and then injects her with a heavy overdose of heroin. And then for shits and giggles, he takes an aerosol bottle and flame and burns her. Another point, he was chasing a naked woman down a hall. Anyway, thinking the police might be onto them now, they try to flee. They're hiding in a building, and yes, they end up taking shelter on some farm. And the guy who's in charge of this farm happens to be the guy from her dreams. The dude sets them up in some sort of rock house dwelling with straw.
This is the man in my dream. He raped me and killed you.
Well, fulfilling the prophecy of Celia's dreams, he comes in and is going to have his way with her while Chris slumbers. What does Chris do? He takes pictures of it until he gets knocked out. He then does to Chris exactly what he did to her. When he's done with him, he takes him outside and dumps him in this pit of lye. What does Celia do? Well, I guess she was in the market for a new man.
Actually, I to speak at all.
But you've got to help me. I'm your brother.
What?
You promised not to tell anyone.
The hell with promises!
Then it starts to rain, which basically makes the lie dissolve his human skin, and that's the end of our film. Okay, let's talk about this movie, Island of Death. It's a movie I'd never actually even heard of before. It's a Greek film, or it's filmed in Greece, actually, on the island of Mykonos, which I have a few other movies that were filmed in Mykonos. I think a couple of Emmanuel movies for one also. Also a movie I have called Joy of Mykonos, but I digress. Anyway, this movie is a video nasty. It's one of those Section 3 video nasties, which means it wasn't prosecuted. However, it could have been seized as obscene material. It stars, I think, a bunch of Americans, actually, all in Greece. And we have a couple named Chris and Celia. They're on a little vacation, I guess. They're a couple, and they're psychos. They make love anytime they can, but in between that, they kill people. They attack this one gay couple, kills another guy with a spear gun. They kill this one lesbian woman by injecting her with heroin and then burning her face, and then they decapitate her. Or no, they decapitated this other lady with a bulldozer. That was a unique scene before. There's this older woman, and at one point Chris says, "I've never been with a middle-aged whore before," so he decides to be with her so he can kill her. Meanwhile, they take pictures of all this stuff too. They have a camera. They take pictures of all their actions of what they're doing with this middle-aged woman. He gets her undressed, and then he pees all over her, and then she's like disgusted at first, then she's like gets into it, really crazy, and then he ends up killing her or knocking her out. He slaps her around a little bit. She gets mad about that, but then she kind of gets into that too. Then he's had enough. He knocks her out, takes her outside, and takes a bulldozer and cuts her head off. They kill a lot of people. Eventually, the police kind of like start poking around a little bit. One cop actually gets hung outside of an airplane. They drag him and basically choke him to death or hang him by his own airplane, and then drop him into the water. But eventually a bunch of cops are following them, so they decide to get out of town, although there's not much of a town. They're on an island. But they end up on this farm with some guy that turns out Celia, the woman, has been dreaming about. She keeps dreaming that this guy assaults her and then attacks and kills her husband. It turns out that's exactly what's about to happen. He gives them a place to stay inside this straw-filled structure, this rock house or something. I don't know. It was like a cave, it kind of looked like. While they're sleeping, he goes in. The guy doesn't say him. It doesn't really talk. Doesn't have any sort of English language skills, I guess, but he assaults her, and then Chris wakes up, and then he beats up Chris, knocks him out, and then he does the exact same thing to Chris that he did to Celia. Assaults him right then and there, and then he takes him outside and dumps him in a pit of lye, where I don't know if he's hurt or injured or what, but he can't move. He's stuck in there, and he's like, "Celia, help me out." Celia's like, whatever, and then she goes back inside and makes love to the guy who just threw her man inside of this pit of lye. And then while they're in there, though, Chris says, "You can't leave me here. I'm your brother." Turns out they're brother and sister too, to add to the madness here. And then he says, "Well, I guess I'm safe inside this lye as long as it doesn't rain, because if it starts to rain, the lye is going to, dissolve me and melt me." Well, of course, while Celia is inside with the other guy making love, it starts to rain. We hear some screams, and that's basically how our movie ends. Island of Death. Now, my fellow Schlockmeister brother Jeff said he actually watched this movie before, and he described it as batshit crazy, and I think I got to agree with him. It's pretty appropriate. This director apparently saw and was influenced by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which came out 2 years earlier, and said, "I can make a grimier, dirtier, more shocking film." And so he just put every perversion in it that he possibly could think of. There's even a scene with a goat. Yeah, that's Island of Death. A cast of people that I never even heard of. I guess the main character, Chris, he did a couple films, like 3 or 4, and then he killed himself a year later by putting according to the director, he put a propane hose down his throat, and that killed him, or maybe turned the propane on. I don't exactly know. Celia, I think, is still with us, although she only made one other movie besides this one. There's plenty of nudity in this movie as well. I mean, this thing checks all the boxes for exploitation films. I mean, this one
has it all. It really, really does. And it's in that regard, if you're looking for a really great exploitation film, you can't go wrong with this one. It's just nonstop mayhem from two psychos, and in that regard, I kind of enjoyed it. So there you go. It's Island of Death. Arrow put this out. This is a nice Blu-ray here. It's got a DVD in as well. It's also got some stuff by the director on here, interview, and they actually went back to Mykonos, and he showed them around the island and showed them where the scenes were, where they filmed. And I like the way they filmed that because they showed like a scene from the movie and then a scene from them walking through there again. So they kind of just interspersed back and forth between those. I really enjoy stuff like that. So that was cool. But anyway, that's it. Again, checks all the boxes for an exploitation film. You can't go wrong with it if that's what you're looking for. Check it out. Leave some comments. I'll leave a link on Amazon down below if you're looking to get this movie, and you should. They can get this for around $20 or so. It's well worth it for this type of film. Check it out. Leave some comments. Watch it. Bye. Island of Death. Neat soundtrack, too.